Chagin Erev Shabbos, we're smack in the middle of Pesach. Beautiful Seder, and we've built our Emunah, we've worked in our Emunah, our relationship with Hashem. We were zeicher to go out of Mitzrayim, the Rebbeinu Shalom, and Klal Yisrael, Kaviyachol. We eloped, b'chipazon, we ran out. Hashem says, "You're with me. Let's run to the chuppah. Let's run to Shavuos." We're already starting to count Sfira. We can't wait for the day. But the way we finish our Seder is intriguing. Rav Moshe Wolfson asks, this whole exercise of Emunah leads us to some of the most interesting songs. Echad Mi'odeya, Chad Gadya. Now, they're beautiful. They're also funny in a sense. They're a lot of fun. Maybe it's just because you already drink 4 cups of wine. But there are hundreds of explanations. Famously, the Gra says it's Yosef Tzadik. It's a story of Klal Yisrael through time. But we have to wonder, why are we saying something at the end of the Leil Emunah, Leil Shimurim, that requires so many explanations? It's a really, really strange story. Why what did the cow do to deserve being shechted? He was just drinking water innocently. The goat's eating the cat. Who knows 1? Who knows 2? Who knows 3? One. It doesn't make sense. On a Pasha level, it doesn't make sense. On a Seder level, it's the deepest of the deepest, the highest of the high. It's the sweetest of the sweet. But on a Pasha level, why is it so complexing? And Moshe Wolfson says, that is Emunah. You want to know what Emunah is? Emunah comes with questions. And if you land up on the highest level that we will ever be in Emunah, the night of the Seder, with questions, that's okay. That's okay. There's a Maisa. There's a guy named Abe living in Europe and found out that the Nazis were invading. So he told his wife, Sarah, you go to America. You have a sister, you have an aunt that lives in California. He got her papers. He couldn't get papers for himself for whatever reason, his citizenship. So he said, you're going. And she said, absolutely not. I'm not going anywhere without you. And an hour later, she walks into her room and he's packing her stuff into a suitcase. He said, you don't understand. You are the most important thing in the world to me. You're surviving this no matter what. I'll catch up to you. He goes over to the wall there. I have one wedding picture. And he says, I'm going to hold on to this. But you hold on to it. And I'm going to meet you in California by your aunt's house. And I'll take back the picture. His wife, Sarah says, no thank you. She opens up the picture frame, takes out the picture, and rips it in half. She gives him the half with her on it, takes the half with him on it, and says, we're not leaving each other. You hold on to this picture of me, I'll hold on to the picture of you, and we're going to put these 2 pieces together as soon as this rolls over. And Taka, she hopped on a boat and went to America. Abe stayed behind and soon found himself in the clutches of the Nazi Third Reich. He was subject to Kol Minei Gehenim. And throughout the entire thing, watching everyone die around him, he became very, very close to those who survived with him. That was like, his brothers. But the one thing that he clung to the most was that little picture. And he held on to it for years and years. And it got battered and bruised, but he always kept it. He hid it. He sewed it into his coat, because if the Nazis found that he was holding on to pieces of his previous life and not giving anything over, they would just shoot him on the spot. So he smuggled it. It was the most precious thing in the world. And he used to talk to Sarah, the picture of Sarah, and say, don't worry, we're gonna be back together soon. This will all be over. I miss you. And his buddies thought he was a little, nuts, but whatever it takes to survive. And he went from camp to camp. One night, the Nazis made them take off their coats and go somewhere. And Abe needed his coat because the picture was in there. So it was late at night, and he's tossing and turning. His friend says, what's wrong? Why can't we just go to sleep? It was a long day. And he said, I have to go get that picture. It's in my coat. He said, you're not leaving the barracks at night. they'll come and they'll kill you, they kill us. Not happening. It says we're not losing you. You're the only people we have in our life. We have to stay together. And Abe said, okay, I hear you. But he couldn't fall asleep. So when all of his friends fell asleep, it was 2-3 o'clock in the morning, he snuck out. And he said, I'm going to do this. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to survive. And he played it safe. And he snuck from shadow to shadow. And he took his time, even if it took 20 minutes to make sure the coast was clear. He jumped to the next shower behind a tree, behind a bush, behind the shadow of a truck. And finally he got to his coat. And he felt around the inside, and the picture was Taka still there. And lovingly, he took it out. And he started heading back to the barracks. And again, it took him 40-50 minutes to get there. And one shadow at a time, slowly, he made his way back to the barracks. At one point, a truck pulled up at the front gate of their camp. The commandant went out, and he was like, this is weird. It's like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Why is there a truck here? And the Nazis were extremely punctual. It's not like it was just a late delivery. Nothing gets delayed. And he stayed in the shadows and waited. 20, 30, 40 minutes. 45 minutes later, he sees the truck leave. Coast is clear. And again, he jumps shadow to shadow to shadow. And he gets back to his bunker. And he sees that the lights are on. And he said, oh no, what I do? They must have come and done a check at the middle of the night, saw that I wasn't there, and killed everybody. And to his horror, as he made his way to the front door of his bunker, he saw that every single person in that bunker was lying in a pool of blood. And he said, this is all my fault. And he crumbled to the floor, and just in a fetal position, he rocked back and forth, crying, just shaking, shuddering by the sight, by the thought of what he just did. After 10-15 minutes, he started getting, pulling back his composure, and he saw that the next barracks light was also on, and that confused him a little bit. And he went to the next barrack and saw that they had all also been shot. You see, it was towards the end of the war, and the Nazis just decided to kill everybody. The Nazis came back the next day. Abe hid in a pile of bodies so they would think he was dead. The kid, sir, at some point he thought he was just going to die under the pile, so he made some noise, and a man took him out. And as he lost consciousness, they put him on a stretcher, and he said, wait, that's not Nazi style. The Americans had showed up, and he survived. They revived him in the hospital. They got him enough strength. He went to America. He went to California. He knocked on his wife's aunt's door. She answers the door and almost fainted. Barely recognized him, but this was Abe. And Abe says, where's Sarah? And his aunt said, well, she thought you were dead. He says, where's Sarah? She said, we got a report that your entire barracks was killed. We had testimony from the American soldiers. He said, where's Sarah? She said, her aunt said, she just went half comatose. She stopped eating, stopped drinking. She's been in the hospital for the last month or so. He said, let's go to her right now. He said, are you sure it's a good idea? He said, yes, now. Okay. And gets the car keys. They get in the car. They start driving to the hospital. Abe says, let's stop off and buy some flowers. His aunt says, you don't understand. This is not she's not all there. It's not just an anniversary, He said, let's get flowers. Okay. They stopped off. He bought a bunch of flowers. And they went to the hospital. They walk up to the door where Sarah was. And his aunt says, just be ready. This is not what you're going to expect. Abe says, I know. You go in first. Bring her the flowers. And reaches into his pocket and takes out the picture. You could barely make out who it was, but it was Sarah. And he opens it up, all beaten and tattered. And he sticks it in the flowers. and says, just give these to her. Sam goes in and says, Sarah, how you doing? No answer. Sarah, you have a visitor? No answer. Slowly, Sarah's eyes move over to the flowers and sees that there's something stuck in the flowers. And for the first time in weeks, she leans over, she sits up, pulls out the picture and says, who gave this to you? And right on cue, Abe walked in. For 5 minutes, Abe said, Sarah. And Sarah said, Abe, in total disbelief, just processing what was happening, what they thought could never happen. For 5 minutes, all they said was each other's names. And Abe didn't leave her side until she fully recovered. They got back together. They got their life back together. They have a beautiful family. And on one wall in their living room, it's entirely blank, except for one tiny picture in the middle. It's a wedding picture, Abe and Sarah. Half of it, crisp, pristine, and half of it looks like it went through the camps. There are a lot of questions you can ask. But Emunah comes with questions. Holding on to something so precious, if you realize what it's worth to you, then the questions don't get in the way. Ani mamin, be'emunah shelema levias hamashiach ani mamin levias hamashiach ani mamin levias hamashiach ani mamin. A good Shabbos, a good Yom Tiv.